Hello and welcome back to the Chattergate podcast, where I review and discuss media. I'm your host, Dranking Thomas Hughes, and today I'm going to be talking about, obviously, something I technically spoke about, about 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago? My brain is, going to be 2 weeks ago, possibly maybe 3. And obviously, I spoke then about the show Castle, specifically the first season, which obviously I binge watched and really enjoyed, and I was like, I want to talk about this. And obviously during that review, at the end, I did state, obviously, if I managed to watch the other seasons, then I'd possibly review them as I go along. But obviously that was just a possibility. It wasn't always going to happen, or it might have never happened. But obviously I obviously watched another season, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to talk about it. So today I'm actually not just going to be talking about Castle Series 2, I'm also going to be talking about Castle Series 3, because I binge-watched both seasons within a week. I just got completely hooked on this show and just could not put it down. Similar to Hudson and Rex, where I just couldn't put it down, but unlike that show, there's a lot more episodes to get through on this, and as I'm already up to now at the start of Season 4, which I'm going to be starting, hopefully by the time this episode has gone out, I hopefully would have started it, because, I might review that down the line, because that's what I might do. I might try and just do 2 at a time, so obviously next time I could be talking about 4 and 5, then 6 and 7, and it leaves me the finale, the Season 8, obviously as the final one, since that was the last season. So I think that's what I might do going forward, but again, we'll see as we go along how much I can get through of the show. So, yeah, obviously, I binge-watched these 2 seasons within a week, and absolutely loved every second of it. It offers the same amount of entertainment, same amount of entertainment, sorry, my words got scrambled there, as the first season did, as well, obviously, it basically pretty much offers the exact, what you got. If you enjoyed the first season, I'll say this, it'd be a lot easier, then you're going to enjoy the second and third season, because I say same amount of entertainment, same amount of castle, and obviously there's a lot more serious moments as well, which help with to draw you into the plots a lot more. So the only real difference really with this season, these 2 seasons compared to that first season, is that they shifted from a 10 episode run to a 24 episode run, so you get an extra 14 episodes, which obviously allows them to do more cases. Obviously allows Nathan Fillion to basically show off more of Castle's funny side, as well as more of his soft side when it comes to obviously his family, and also just some moments with obviously Kate, who obviously herself gets a lot more emotional moments in these 2 seasons, and a lot more funny moments as well. Like, both those 2 absolutely kill it in the second and third season. They're so entertaining to watch, whether it's their moments when they're being humorous and just taking the piss, or whether it's their more serious and tender moments, which tug at the heartstrings. I think they both do really well in the lead, and that's the one thing I really love about this show. And I said it in the first, I think I said it during the first review. Obviously, its cast is phenomenal, especially its 4 sort of lead detective, 3 lead detectives and Castle. Can't really call him a detective, he's not technically a cop. Those 4 are absolutely fun to watch. Obviously, Castle, as I say, offers main 2 offer both the entertainment and the somber moments, whereas the 2 other side cops, let's see if I've got in my notes here the names. I think I did jot it down somewhere. Ryan and Esposito. Obviously, those 2 offer more of the comedic moments. Like, for example, there's a scene where obviously Castle thinks he's going to die, and he turns around to Kate and's like, basically trying to be like, okay, I need to take care of obviously Alexis when I'm gone, and he's been like really like super serious in this moment, and in the end obviously she caves in, and then he kind of like ventures into the joke territory, so he goes full Castle in the sense of, he goes, I need you to also do me one more big favour. I need you to get rid of that porn stash I've got in my cupboard upstairs. And obviously Esposito walks behind him and taps him on his back. He's like, I got you, bro. Like, moments like that just fucking crack me up, because it obviously has this really serious tone, but then it knows how to subtly give you the audience what they're getting into with the show, which is the comedy element, and it knows how to make a joke out of the situation. But to be fair, I always do love that kind of joke. The Claremont Barrows of History type jokes. They're quite funny. I mean, they did in the first Suicide Squad film, and that was fucking hilarious moments. I just love that sort of joke. It just sums up the character that they have these dirty thoughts and dirty moments. It's just funny. What else we got here? Obviously series is obviously these two series as well. Obviously, where we left off in series 1, we had the reveal of Kate's mom's death was actually a murder, and obviously there was others like it. So that was a big moment that ended off series 1, and then this show actually, obviously, when it first comes back into it, obviously it deals with her not wanting to deal with this situation, so she kind of pushes Castle away. And to be fair, across the 2 seasons, like that story is something that they bring back every now and again. It's not something that like the second series completely focused on. It was something that obviously you got like at the start of series 2, and I think it was like halfway through series 2, and I'm pretty certain eventually they brought it back in the 3rd season again at different points during it, and then obviously it was a big plot point within its finale. So obviously it still hasn't, across these 2 seasons, still hasn't finished that plot line, because there's still a puppet master behind this whole death and killing spree, technically. And that was something I didn't expect, because I kind of thought, oh, maybe they're going to try and that'd be like the big plot point of the 2nd series, and have it wrapped up by the end of it. But no, that wasn't the case. It kind of spread it out over 2 seasons, and it's still doing it. I don't even know which season it's going to end on, and it's kind of an interesting idea, like dragging it out like that, because I would have thought they would have just ripped the band-aid off and went all in straight away, but it doesn't. So I'm just like, okay, where you obviously, well, first up, who's behind it all, because we're getting all these pawns obviously in the situation. We're not getting the actual ringleader. And I'm like, okay, where are you going with this? Who's going to be revealed as the big killer? And I've kind of got my theories. I'm not going to actually explain thought in detail, because that'd be spoiler territory, and I'm kind of just doing like a spoiler-free thing here. But obviously I've got my theories on who it possibly could be, and then that kind of does link back to both characters. Well, specifically the main character, Castle, is kind of just linked to him, and I'm just like, okay, I got my theories, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But as I say, it's an interesting idea of spreading it out rather than just focusing an entire season on this story arc. What else we got here? Obviously, as I say, when I brought up obviously writing Esposito, obviously they get a bit more in these 2 seasons as well. Obviously, not just some more comedic moments, but obviously they both get a romantic plot line. They both play vital parts in big episodes. I mean, obviously, Esposito especially has an entire episode about a former partner. Obviously, that died years ago, but obviously stuff has surfaced about him. Obviously, he has a big plot point there. Obviously, he has a big romantic relationship with a member of the team. So obviously, they both get a bit more feel in the story rather than them just straight as being the comedic characters. Yes, they are still the comedic side characters, I should say, but they still play big parts in plot points of the 2nd and 3rd season. Heck, one of the later episodes of season 3, obviously Castle and Kate go off to LA to basically deal with a case, and obviously the case is technically also happening in New York. So while they're dealing with the case in LA, Ryan and Esposito obviously are dealing with the case in New York, so they get stuff to do. And I like shows like that when obviously it has these side characters. It just doesn't put them completely to the side when it actually does go, okay, let's use them. And there's one episode where Esposito kind of gets sidelined entirely, but it's for comedic purposes. And it obviously works for the plot because he still technically does get moments where he gets to have these comedic moments and be involved in the plot before he gets kind of taken out of it. But I'm fine with moments like that. They're still part of the plot, even if they do get sidelined for like a majority of the episode. But it's still funny. As I say, I love the 4 core cast members of this show. They're just fucking incredible and entertaining. And obviously, I think I've said the 2 seasons. Obviously, I think series 3 is where it kind of hits its peak at the 3 seasons I've watched so far. because obviously that's the one that kind of delves a lot more into Beckett's mom's murder case, and obviously it all leads to this massive finale in the final episode of Series 3, which, for me, is its best series finale, because so far, Series 1 finale was just a big reveal, obviously, of it's basically it's a murder, not obviously just this random robbery situation. Series 2 didn't really have this big moment. Obviously, they kind of just... Castle went off with, obviously, his ex-wife, so it wasn't like a big, like, oh my god, what just happened kind of moment. Whereas Series 3 has this, like, throughout these massive moments, and then ends on such, like, a shocking moment that you're just like, what the fuck just happened? I need to come back for Series 4 to see where this picks up from. Which I always say with, like, shows, if you're obviously going in for the long run, you do obviously and again want, like, a series finale to be this big moment to draw people back for the next season, which I said with Series 1, that moment with the reveal of the case being a murder obviously case, not just a robbery situation, that drew you back and wanted to see how this obviously story unfolded. Yes, it kind of didn't fully unfold, and it's kind of slowly unfolding. It's kind of teasing you, basically. It's edging you along before it finally eventually reveals the truth. And obviously, Series 3, obviously, just for me, is such a big, big moment with its last shot. Because obviously, it's just... it's a sort of classic moments when you're like, hands on head, like, what the fuck just happened? And I feel like you like that during the entire episode, when obviously these twists and turns are being revealed, and it's like, fuck. But still, obviously, the other thing I like about the second and third series, because obviously them shifting to the 24 episodes rather than the 10 episode that the first series had, obviously they can play around a bit more. Obviously, yes, they got more of these... at times, humorous plot lines, like there's a plot involving a museum guy getting killed, and obviously there's a whole curse in the episode. There's like a X-Files themed one. There's like a beauty pageant one. There's a lot of ones that you can take humorous. The magician plot line, like stuff that obviously is like, okay, that's a kind of a humorous sounding idea. One thing I do like with these seasons is obviously because of the longer run, they're able to then do two-parter episodes, and both seasons have two-parters. Obviously, Series 2 has a serial killer plot line, which is dragged out over two episodes, which is, I think the first episode is called Tick, 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 and the second episode is called Boom. So the whole point of those episodes is a killer is kind of targeting Kate because of the books, obviously about her, obviously that Castle's writing about her, and obviously he's kind of like killing and trying to draw her in before wanting to try and finish her off. And then the second series is a nuclear bomb plotline, which is called, I think the second part's called Countdown off the top of my head, and the first part is, fuck, I can't actually remember what the first part's called, but basically it's about a nuclear bomb going off in New York. So obviously these two episodes deal with, yeah, don't get me wrong, obviously every episode's about murder or whatnot, and obviously it's still a super serious plot line, but for me, these two are the big serious ones. Well, first off, one's about fucking entire city being nuked, so that's fucking super serious, and the other one's about a murderer targeting one of the officers, and obviously a bunch of other people, and again, that's kind of like super serious, because most times it's just one body, you're done, that's the episode, you're focusing on that one body. Again, yeah, it's serious, but they have a lot of fun along the way to discovering who the killer is, whereas these, like, the fun is still there, but it's definitely on the back burner, because the full focus is this super serious plotline. And I love that. I do like shows when they have two-parters, because you can get a lot more story going on there, and you can essentially do a bigger story, because let's be honest, this plotline, obviously with like a nuclear bomb going off, that kind of feels like it should be a two-part episode. It feels like it shouldn't be a single episode, like a single, like, 40-minute episode. You feel like you can get a full, essentially, like, movie length out of it. And I absolutely love that. And I just realised my fan is still on. Hold on. There we go. Hopefully my mic wasn't picking any of that up. So, obviously, they're able to do a lot more with that. 'Cause I feel like it'd just feel rushed if it was like a 40-minute thing and that was it, to stop the bomb at the end of it. I like the idea of them going, okay, we can have like essentially an hour 20 here to delve into this plot line, have all these twists and turns, and have the big finale in obviously at the end of the second part. Absolutely love that. And same with the killer plot line. They're able to drag it out and have this big shocking moment at the end of the first part, and which is obviously what both do. The end of both first parts have these big shocking moments that make the second part feel like it's obviously draw you back in for that second part. And if they just did the 40-minute episode, they probably wouldn't be able to have that big shocking moment. They'd probably just, as I say, it would just be the case of where that shocking moment is them solving the case finally. So I feel like them doing 2-parters works, and I'm hoping there's more of that going forward. I haven't looked too much at the episode plots going forward, so I'm just fingers crossing that there's some 2-parters in later seasons. Because as I say, I do love a good 2-parter because there's just so much you can get done. And another thing, obviously, this does, which obviously isn't, it's kind of 2-parters, but not fully. Obviously, they drag out plots over a couple of episodes, like they've been doing with the Beckett's, obviously, Monmouth Murder, that's been dragged out over multiple episodes. But there's also a plot line involving Kate's ex-partner, which he comes in like early season 3, and he's just in one episode, but then he comes back as the plot of I think it's like the last but one, or 2 episodes from the end, he comes back into it. And obviously, yes, it's not continuing on the story from that episode because it doesn't need to. That story is wrapped up. It's able just to bring that character back and center a new story on him. And I do like shows when they do that, when obviously they can have a character come back a few times and center stories around them. And that's what this show has started to do with the second and third season. It started to bring those characters back and have a bit more about them. And obviously this as well, obviously as your main cast members, this one also brings in a new forensic officer. Obviously, who kind of just, unlike Lani, he just kind of doesn't want to be there. He's kind of just hates everyone, essentially. And it offers this new dynamic at times, because he only pops up quite a bit during the second series, but I've noticed during the third series he doesn't. So I don't know if obviously the case of obviously the actress couldn't come back as much at that point, so they was like, okay, we need a forensic officer, let's bring in this new character and focus a lot on him, obviously helping them solve cases, and eventually bring her back here and there before obviously shifting back to her. Because I mean, he went out of it in series 3 for quite a while. Actually, I don't know how many episodes he even appeared in series 3, but he appeared towards the back end of series 3, and I was like, oh, I haven't seen him for a bit. And obviously, yeah, he's an interesting character, but obviously the fun thing with obviously Lani is the fact obviously she is obviously just humorous, and she has a lot of connection with this core cast, whereas this guy, let's be honest, he doesn't. He's just a placeholder forensic officer, and I'm fine with that. If obviously you can't get your main character back, then it makes sense having someone there part time, like Hudson and Rex did when obviously it's obviously forensic officer when she transitioned into a detective. They were like, okay, let's obviously add a new forensic officer for a while, and that's what they did with obviously the last series. They had a new officer taking up obviously her job while she was doing the more detective stuff. So it's just a character that you don't need to get attached to if they do bring back the other character, and that's what this show did. It brought him in, had a few funny moments with him when he's kind of just being grumpy, but then shifted back into her taking over. What else we got here? Let's have a look. I think that's my notes. Oh no, that was it. Obviously, another thing I pointed out in the first series was I love spotting the guest stars and going, oh, I recognise them from this show, I recognise this from this movie. And across these 2 seasons, I've done the exact same thing, and there's been some big ones I've spotted. I mean, I think the biggest one really that was like, oh, that's I didn't know he was in this. Obviously, the late Chadwick Boseman, who obviously played T'Challa in Black Panther, he appeared in the Magician episode I mentioned. So he was like a very brief role in that as a suspect. You had, I think his name's Lance Henriksen, the guy who's in obviously Aliens as Bishop. He appeared in an episode, the X-Files type one, because it was the alien one, funny enough. Who else? Trying if I can think of some of the other cameos. There's been a few. I mean, the one that obviously I found humorous as well was Dominic Purcell, obviously from Prison Break. obviously he appeared in obviously a later episode. Obviously he was obviously the main villain of the episode. But obviously, the one thing I find funny about his appearance in this show is the fact that in the other show that I more know him from, obviously, yeah, I know he's in Prison Break, but the show I heavily know him from obviously was Flash and Legends of Tomorrow. Well, just the Arrowverse in general. Obviously, in that, his character Mick was obviously referred to as Heatwave. That was his villain name. Obviously, the book that Castle writes about Beckett, the first book, not the second book, is called Heatwave, and obviously, I find that hilarious that they cast him in this, and then later on he'd go on to play a character called Heatwave. That's just me personally finding a funny joke in that. So obviously this show, the second series, it's obviously deals with his obviously first book that he was writing in the first series, which obviously I say is called Heatwave, and obviously it deals with a lot of stuff to do with that. And then eventually he switches to a new book called it's sequel at least, sorry, called Naked Heat. And obviously the good thing with this as well, obviously him having adaptions, obviously so him making this book, they then started bringing the idea of what if in the universe they were trying to adapt this story into a movie or something, and that's obviously an entire episode where it's in the third series that Kate gets shadowed by the actress that is going to play her. And in the entire episode, she's slowly becoming more like her, like dressing like her, looking like her, and Kate's just like, what the fuck? And to one point, she wants to sleep with Castle to go full method in the role. So that's quite funny that obviously they're able to show off them making a movie version of it. And then later on in Series 3, you actually then they go to LA. Obviously, they actually do visit the set of what they're filming, and they run into two actors that are meant to be Ryan Esposito, and it's funny because obviously, to an extent, you could argue there's some resemblance, but not fully. But it's funny when obviously Castle's talking to him, and then Kate comes over and starts trying to explain the situation to him, and then she looks at him and just like, wait, what? Because obviously she's seeing them for the first time as like, even after she finishes talking to him, she walks away and it's like, that's like really creepy, right? The fact that they look like and I find that like pretty funny. But I say most episodes are funny. I mean, I think some episodes that stand out in these two seasons is the museum episode, as I said, where obviously Castle thinks he's got it involves a curse, and obviously Castle thinks he's cursed because he's looked at this mummy that supposedly you can get cursed from if you look at it. If you look at its face, obviously you can get a curse, and the entire episode shit's going wrong, and he's thinking, shit, the curse is coming after me, and that entire episode was fucking hilarious. It was a good idea. As I said, the X-Files plotline where obviously they literally recreate the scene when in the first episode of X-Files when the car gets stopped by and there's the beam of light and there's a whole government conspiracy. They literally replicate that entire plot line, which was pretty cool to watch. Let me have a look at the episodes actually, because there's some I liked. So the multiple parters to obviously Beckett's mom's murder was entertaining to watch because they're the more serious ones. Obviously the will they won't they get together is like a constant thing throughout this series, 2 seasons at least, and they definitely are getting close to a relationship. Let's have a look at some of these episodes. There's an episode where obviously Castle makes a bet with Ryan Esposito of who can solve the case first, and that leads to some funny moments where they're like, I think the bet involves him dressing up in a dress and shaving his head off. And obviously that eventually brings, obviously Kate's involved in that. She's like, well, we're not losing this bet because I'm not doing any of that. There's an episode 2 of a polar expedition. Obviously, a faked polar expedition, which was an interesting one, which obviously had 2 cast members from the Arrowverse also pop up in, which I was like, oh, there's one, and the next minute another one popped up. I was like, what the fuck? It was a Halloween type one, which obviously had someone who was looking like a vampire getting staked, and then there's a guy who looked like a werewolf. There's a lot going on in that episode. There's a guy who had amnesia. That was an entire plot point. There's a wedding episode. That was quite a fun one. Obviously, where it's like Castle's like one of Castle's like exes from back in the day. Obviously, getting married, and he's like, I kind of still have feelings. That was like a really fun one to watch. What else we got here? I'm just looking at all these. There's one about a killer basically that kills him freeze, and obviously he's resurfaced and doing it again. There's quite a few I could bring up. I mean, there's one about, obviously, they get to a set of a soap opera, which obviously uh, brings up old memories for Castle's mom. But as I say, there's a lot going on throughout these. There's a lot of really great episodes, I should say, and they all give their cast members a lot to do. As I say, even like the mom and the daughter character, they get a lot to do. The daughter obviously constantly entangled in romances before they obviously nail down a specific love interest that they're going to keep bringing back. And then the mom, obviously, still trying to get into acting, trying to make an acting score, herself getting entangled in a romance with an old flame. There's a lot going on for these characters, and I like the fact that they're not just using them as just little moments. They're actually giving them something within the story, even if it's not pivotal to the story. I like that they're going, okay, we've got a lot of episodes here. We've got a lot of runtime. We can pad it out by allowing these characters to shine, and I absolutely love that. I think that's a great idea from obviously the showrunners in the show. It was a really good idea to, as I said, just allow them to have their moments. But as I say, these 2 seasons have just been incredible to watch, and they've fully drawn me into the world of Castle, and I obviously can't wait to move on to Series 4, especially after that Series 3 finale. But before I actually get to the ratings, I'm going to do something obviously new obviously when I review TV shows. Obviously, back when I used to review, obviously with everyone else, we used to do the favourite moment stuff. When it comes to TV shows, sorry about then. When it comes to TV shows now, I'm going to point out my favourite episode from the series. I've kind of done it before with, obviously the last series of Hoods and Rex, when I pointed out my favourite episode was the Home Alone style episode. So I kind of did it there, but I haven't done it with a lot of other stuff. But I'm going to start doing it from now on. So before I actually point out series 2 and 3, I'm going to have a quick look at series 1 because I didn't do it for that, and I'm going to pick out which is my favourite episode from that. Which one would I say was my favourite in that? You know what? For that one, just because obviously it's been a while since I actually watched any of the episodes in that, I'm going to give it to the first episode just because I found it obviously entertaining enough to draw me in, and obviously if the pilot does that, then it's a great episode. So I feel like just for that, I'll just give the first episode as my favourite. But for the second series, it was generally a difficult decision because, as I say, I liked the museum episode. I thought it was fucking hilarious. I like the mobster murderer episode because obviously that brought Beckett's mom's murder case back into the front and center. But I think the 2-parter episode was definitely obviously the 2 that stood out the most for me, the serial killer plot line. And if I was to pick a specific one, it'd probably be episode 17, because 2-parters episode 17 and 18. So I'd give it to the 17, which is the episode called Tick, 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 because obviously that ends on a really big moment that's, it's a really great cliffhanger. Well, I just think, obviously, it is hard to choose between them, because I do want to say just both overall, because they have this great story across the 2 episodes. But obviously, if I go for a specific one, I'd probably choose 17. I know 18 is the one when they solve the murder case, but I feel like 17's the one. It's just that final moment of the episode that just is like, whoa. Even if the episode 18 has a humorous moment to kick off and follow on from that big shocking moment, I feel like 17 is just the one that like made me jump up going, what the fuck just happened? And then for series 3, again, difficult. The X-Files one was fucking amazing. But again, I'm going to give it... Well, not 2-part technically, because technically it's one of those ones where it flows on. But obviously, I'm giving it to the last episode of the Beckett's mom's murder case within series 3, because I say it's still going, which is the series finale, so episode 24. Because that one was full of twists and turns, big reveals, and a shocking finale. Not just the final shot of the episode, just the build-up to that final shot was just, like, shocking as hell. So I feel like that one stood out the most. Because not only did it make a big reveal regarding the case that makes you go, shit, I didn't see that coming, but it also, as I say, has these big moments where characters get to shine. I mean, there's a scene when Ryan and Esposito fight over like this bit of information being revealed, and Esposito's snapping. And to be fair, Ryan gets to the point where he's like, "Do it, just hit me, and it'll make you feel better. Just go for it." And I really liked moments like that where obviously they're both struggling, but Ryan can see Esposito struggling even more, and he knows that if he does what he does, then it'll make him feel better. So I like that. And as I say, then there's just moments where obviously Castle and Beckett were fighting throughout, obviously again torn up over what was going on, and then obviously that all leads to the big grand finale, which was just like amazing. So I feel like episode 24 of series 3 is going to be my favourite one. I'm trying to remember what the episode was called actually. I'll do a quick Google here for you. So the episode was called Knockout. That's definitely my favourite of series 3. So okay, so series 1 was Flowers for Your Grave. Series 2 was Tick Tick Tick. 3 ticks or 4 ticks? 3 ticks. Tick Tick Tick. And series 3 would have been Knockout. So those are my favourites of the season so far. And as I say, going forward, when I do TV show reviews, I'll obviously try and bring, if I remember at least, I'll try and bring up my favourite episode from each season, just so you know which one obviously stood out the most for me. So yeah, obviously in terms of rating wise, similar to series 1, I'm going to Castle series 2 a 9 out of 10. Just because it was just fucking amazing and entertaining. Yeah, it's still not, this 10 out of 10 show, but I feel like a 9 out of 10 is good enough. And then obviously, for the exact same for series 3, I'd give it a 9 out of 10 because it's not stepping that foot wrong. I'm hoping that every season, obviously, the first 3 seasons, I've set that benchmark 9 out of 10, and I'm hoping that the 4th season to the 8th season stick to that benchmark. I feel like if it drops below that, as long as it drops to like an 8, I'll be okay. But if obviously it stays at 9 or goes above, then I'm happy. And I feel like this is a worthy enough show. And what I'll do then, obviously, if I do cover the rest of the seasons, when it comes to the last season, obviously I'll do an overall series ranking. Obviously I'll put all these ratings together to give you an overall. So I say, it'll make my job easier for every season's a 9 because I can just give you an overall pretty simple there. But we'll have to wait and see. So, yeah, I think that covers everything. Obviously, if you've seen Castle Series 2 or 3, put your thoughts on the show in the comments below. And, yeah, I generally can't think of anything else. Obviously, you can check out the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Audible. Obviously, you can check it on YouTube if you're not currently watching it on YouTube. And obviously, you can check out all my other content on there. Because I'm pretty much wrapping up Assassin's Creed Unity this month, so that's great. And I've obviously got some ideas going forward where I'm obviously going to be moving on with my single player game. So there's a lot of ideas I got currently coming forward, but obviously next week I'll get the episode up here. Obviously the next episode I'll be reviewing Grizzly Rage, which is obviously our return to the Man-Eater series. So we covered Blood Monkey last week, so you can check that out if you haven't already. And next week, we're moving on to the second movie in the series, which is Grizzly Rage. Which, funny enough, one of the cast members of Grizzly Rage, one of the main characters, was actually in one of the episodes of Series 2 of Castle, which, it's funny that, and then I'm moving on to that movie after this show. That for me is, I've only just realised that. So it's not like I did it on purpose, it's just that I've only just realised that myself. I was like, shit, wait, yeah, he was. Tyler Hoechlin was in Grizzly Rage and an episode of Castle. And he's also one of the best Supermans there is. So, yeah. Obviously, I think that pretty much covers everything. I was going to do another review within this, but that was always just a backup just in case talking about this second and third series wasn't long enough for an episode. Because I was like, okay, I know it might only drag out like half the runtime or 20 minutes of this podcast episode because I'll pretty much be saying a lot of the same stuff because it's been the exact same show, but 2 seasons of it. So I was like, okay, I have a backup for that. And I had a backup in mind, but obviously I didn't write any notes for that, so it was just going to be off my head. But thankfully, I haven't had to do it. So eventually I might come back and do that, obviously, review on an episode because I was going to review Go Go Loser Rangers Series 2. But I kind of want to sit back through it again because I watched it weekly, but I want to watch it, binge watch it, so then I can give it a better opinion. Because I've got a few things that I have issues with on it, but I do want to obviously rewatch it to see if those issues remain before I give a verdict. So that might be something I look into down the line during one of our optional ones. But other than that, I think that covers everything. So I hope you enjoyed Castle Series 2 and 3 review. And I'll see you next week for Grizzly Rage. So until then, have a good one.
If you like what you've seen, don't be afraid to throw us a little like and subscribe. That's always very appreciated over here. And, well, I'll see you on the next video.